How about test 1 2 test 1 2 test testing 1 2 and testing 1 2. Am I loud enough? There we go. Very good. Good evening, everybody. Glad you are here tonight with us, and would invite you to stand up, greet one another, and as you do so, move up a row or two and get yourself toward the front. We have a lot of things to show you up here on the screen, so the closer you are, the better you'll be. And so we're glad you're here tonight. Greet one another, and move on up if you'd like to. Make sure that you can see the screen. All right, we're ready to start. If you would like to let friends know that we are live streaming tonight, if you'd like to text somebody or just let them know, hey, it is on our YouTube channel, and it will also be recorded on our YouTube channel that you can view this later, and that will be a great thing. We are privileged tonight to have the opportunity as a youth ministry to share with you a little bit of what God has been doing in our lives this summer, specifically through our ministry trip from our Connexion group to Clarkston, Georgia. I would like to give you a little bit of quick history on that and a little bit of reasoning why the Clarkston, Georgia area was targeted. We once took a trip to Clarkston, Georgia in 2012, and being that it's 10 years ago, I cannot tell you now why or how we came in contact with this church. I believe it was a friend of mine who had taken a group down to the Clarkston International Bible Church and said, hey, you should check them out. So we looked them up, we looked at their doctrinal statements of faith, found them to be a like-minded faith church, and so we said, let's go down and see what they're doing. We spent a week down there in 2012 doing basically 5-day clubs in the homes of international families, where we would walk in, and we in the neighborhood might be the only English-speaking people, and we would walk into the home, and the parents would not be English-speaking. We would have to talk to the children, and they would interpret for us, and we would put on these 5-day clubs. It sounds a little bit unpolished. It was at the time. Clarkston International Bible Church just said, let's just do this ministry. We got to reach out to these people. It's come a little ways. Riley, you hit me up, bud. Thank you. It's come a little ways on that, and I'd like to share with you a little bit about where it's at. Clarkston, Georgia is located on the northeast side of Atlanta, and it is called one of the most culturally diverse square miles in America. Now, it is bigger probably than a square mile, but Clarkston is a rather large city. Picture describing like a Livonia to Detroit kind of a thing. We're talking about a big city area, Mason, Hazlitt, something like that. You know, you've got it's a big city next to a bigger city, and Clarkston, Georgia, is very involved with the plight of refugees. I'd like to share with you a little bit of what goes on in Georgia, or what is happening in Clarkston. There are over 60 countries represented in Clarkston, Georgia, through the idea of refugees. They are one of the, I want to say, the third largest refugee hub in the United States. There are 100 different language groups there, and there are 120 different people groups represented there. They are there as refugees. And I want to stop just for a quick minute and explain to you what you probably already know, which I did not know by legal definition, the difference between an immigrant and a refugee. We have quite a discussion sometimes on the idea of immigration, border crossings, things like that. It's kind of a hot topic in our country, and in contrast to that, you have the plight of the refugees. An immigrant is simply someone looking to move to another country to better they're staying. They just want to move from this country to that country. That is immigration. A refugee is a person whose life, ability to worship, ability to live is being threatened in some way. Their life is in danger, their well-being is in danger, their ability to make a living is in danger, and it's a legitimate threat to them. That is what makes a person a refugee, that they then come to another country seeking asylum, seeking some security and some refuge from those situations which they are trying to flee. So the idea of refugees in Clarkston, Georgia might be it is a different picture than what we see in the news a lot about what's going on in Mexico and things like that. These are people who are coming from very horrific situations. Oftentimes there's been military takeovers, their village has been raided, their families have been killed, and they are on the run for their lives. Their property has all been taken, and they need some place to go. They need some place where they can survive. And so they come to Clarkston, Georgia. Tell you a little bit about the refugee situation in our world today. There are 82.4 million forcibly displaced people, is what they call them in 2022. That's just a long way to say refugees. And that's the most we've ever had in history. And it's probably not hard to understand why when you stop and look around our world and see all the uproars, uprisings, the wars and things going on in the world. You think just, for example, in Russia and Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, there are many people fleeing Ukraine and becoming refugees themselves. 26.4 million of those refugees are under the care of the United Nations, meaning that they are trying to do what they can to take care of these people, to find something for them. I'm kind of skipping through these real quick because I want to get to our part of it, but I want you to understand this is important. 3,000 refugees a year come to Atlanta, Georgia, come to that area, and many of them, most of them in fact, will come to the Clarkston area and will start their life there. And they will have to start their life. You say, well, our government takes care of them. Our government does this for them. Our government does that for them. Actually found out during our week down there that most refugees are loaned money by the government, and they have to pay that money back. So imagine starting with nothing, being given a chance to come into a country, and they say, we will give you a chance to start over, but it's a loan. You will have to pay that money back once you get on your feet. It's a challenging situation for them to come into a country that is so culturally different than their own and to try to attempt to make a living. But in this process, this makes Clarkston one of the most diverse communities in America. And that's where Clarkston International Bible Church said, we can do something about this. We can minister to these people. So they have a number of ways to minister to these people. They work through partnering ministries with healthcare centers. They work through an apartment ministry, which there are a number of apartment complexes where these refugees move to and need help moving things in, need help finding mattresses and beds and sofas and things like that, appliances. And Clarkston International Bible Church said, hey, we will attempt to help with that. The other one, I didn't want to start that quite yet, but you're going to see it here in just a second. Sorry, Asher. Asher's trying to help me with the live stream. But the other thing that they do is a camp encounter, a 5-day summer, 5-day-a-week summer camp, day camp at their church. And I have a little bit of a promo video about it, and I want to key on this because this is where our group specifically was targeted to come down and help Clarkston International Bible Church reach out to refugee families through a children's ministry called Camp Encounter, a 5-day camp. It went on for 6 weeks, and here's a little bit of a promo video about that.
Hi, my name is Zoe Miller, and I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. This summer, I have been working at Camp Encounter here at Clarkston International Bible Church. One of the things that I do at Camp Encounter is leading the Rejoice rotation, where we sing and we dance worship songs, but then we also talk about the songs that we're learning. So we're talking about the theology behind what we're singing so that we can worship more intentionally. At Camp Encounter, our theme is to be like Jesus. At camp, we also do a lot of fun rotations. One of the rotations is the Rejoice rotation that I lead. We also have an art rotation where students paint, draw, watercolor, do awesome crafts. We do clay. It's a lot of fun stuff. Doing athletics, students are able to play soccer, basketball, volleyball, all different types of sports. And then doing academics, students are taught how to read, write. They're taught better math facts, and so that students are able to learn and grow in their education over the summer so that they're able to start strong in school in the fall. So at camp, we have a lot of fun stuff. We learn a lot, but most importantly, we're learning how to be like Jesus.
So enter Connection, enter First Baptist Church, Carson City, with the opportunity to help out with that Camp Encounter ministry to children. And so we formed a group. We prayed about it. We sought God's will on it. We connected with Clarkston. They were very excited to have us come down and help. You folks as a church family got behind it in very much appreciated ways of prayer support, financial support. And at this time, I would like to invite this group of Connection to Clarkston, come on up and join me on the platform. We have two that were not able to make it. Come on up, guys. And two were not able to make it tonight. They had a family situation arise, and our prayers are with them tonight. But we have a group that totaled 13 that went from our church down to Clarkston, Georgia, taking on the last week of summer camp during their Camp Encounter down in Clarkston, Georgia. And this is our group. Now, guys, we are live streaming, so you have to stay between the two outlets. We measured that out, so you got to be inside the outlets there. Sorry, Marie, you're on the outs. They won't be able to see you on live TV. You can come on up, step forward a little bit. Want our team to introduce themselves a little bit, and you might know their names already, but I told them, please share your name. And then I've asked them to share a little bit of how they came about to be involved in the Camp Encounter. Did we forget to forward something here? No, we're good. Oh, you forgot your notes. All right. So here we go. Here's our team and a little bit about how they got involved with Camp Encounter.
I always look forward to going on the wilderness trips or the missions trips because for me personally, as a youth leader, this is a chance for me to get together with these girls and guys outside of youth group. It's just 1 or 2 hours a week in youth group, and it's just really not enough a lot of times to really get to know them. So this gives me an opportunity to go to a deeper level in relationships with them, so I always look forward to that. My name's Stacy.
Hey, everybody move up to the front of the plant. There we go. These guys.
My name's Eiley, and I chose to be a member on this trip because it's something that not a lot of people get to do, and it was like interacting with kids and stuff, and I thought that would be fun. I thought that this trip was going to be like working a lot, but it was really just having fun with helping the kids and stuff.
My name is Olivia, and I chose to be on this trip because I wanted to lead more kids to Christ and learn more about him myself. And yeah, I was expecting for a lot more work than we had.
My name is Adeline, and I had never been on a ministry trip before, and I chose to come because I thought it was a great opportunity to teach other kids about Christ and, like Olivia said, learn more about him.
My name is Edie Davidson, and I came on the trip because it's an opportunity that normally people wouldn't get, and I thought it'd be awesome if I could share the gospel with unchurched kids normally, and I thought that I would struggle with spending a week with people that I wouldn't normally spend a week with, but we got along really well, I think.
My name is Riley McKelvey. I chose to go on this trip because of just the call that I felt God was God was making to me, and I thought it would be a challenge, and I do love challenges, so I thought it would push me to be better in my relationship with God, but to also better other people in their relationships with God.
I'm Logan McKelvey, and I wanted to go on this trip because I've always wanted to go to a different country, and Clarkston is kind of like a different country because of all the different people groups there, and I also wanted to be an example to the rest of the youth group, see if we could have more people come because I went.
My name's Sawyer, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to go on the trip to learn about how other people live and basically see what they do for their lifestyle versus us.
My name's Asher McKelvey. I went on this trip so I could connect with my team better and I could grow spiritually. What I kind of expected this trip to be was just to serve the people in this community and to just help them grow in their faith as well.
I'm Marie McKelvey, and I have heard a lot about the first time this group got to go to Clarkston, and so I was really excited to be able to go to a place with such diversity, and I was also really looking forward to being able to go on this mission trip with my son and my students and my nephew, and I just remember being able to go when I was in high school and being able to share that with them, that experience, and watch them be challenged and grow. I was just very thankful that I was able to take a week off camp to be able to go with them.
And at this point, I want to thank Stacy and Marie for their involvement with this trip. To do this on my own would have been nearly impossible. They helped out greatly with just kind of helping things stay streamlined, focused, and taking care of a lot of things that one person alone could not do. I really appreciate them taking the time to be on this trip with us. So, Camp Encounter, a 5-day camp that started at 7:45 in the morning and went till about 3:30 in the afternoon. So it was a full day. A couple of them said, well, I was expecting a lot of work, and it wasn't a lot of work, it was a lot of fun. If you're a kid, it was a lot of fun. And these are kids, so they said, this is gonna be great. There were a lot of things going on. We'd kind of like to take you through a day of Camp Encounter, what a day at camp was like. And I think we'll start with Riley. Would you share about how our days began with the openings and things like that, and give us a little bit of detail on that?
So yeah, the day opened, and we kind of just had people fill in. You would come to the we would come into the registration desk, and on the first day, you would get your bracelet, which, basically said, hey, you're allowed to be here. And that also showed because there were 4 groups, age groups, and that showed which age group you were in. You would come in, and I think his name was Sam. Sam, the youth group leader, was just talking and doing stuff, and we would start out with singing, do a lot of singing, and that really got the kids involved, got them hyped up, so then they would actually, pay attention to other things and not be very tired because it was 7:45 in the morning. So that was exciting, and yeah.
Very good, very good. Anybody want to add anything to that? So we did a lot of singing very, very early in the morning. Riley is right. The idea was to get them there, get them up, get them going. We actually were able to feed them breakfast. There was a county program going on that would bring food into the church for these children. And then the church themselves would supplement that so that they could not only feed the kids, make sure the kids got fed well, but then they would also feed the workers. And we had a couple of people involved in that. We had Asher, and Asher, you took a role. We were asked at the orientation, they said, what job would you like? And Asher, believe it or not, said, I want to work in the kitchen. That shouldn't be a big surprise to you because Asher volunteered up at the camp for a number of weeks this summer and worked in the kitchen. And Asher, how was that experience, getting these meals around both at breakfast and then they also did lunch too, I believe, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
So it was a lot of, since it was a new area and I'd been used to working at camp, I had to figure out how to navigate the kitchen first, and all their stuff was in different places, and I had to help them go find it, and then we had to prep all the food and move the county food into the serving area. And since I wasn't registered with the county, I couldn't serve the food. I could only move the food, which is kind of weird, but that's just how it is. We moved the food we could serve into the auditorium slash, I forget what it's called, sanctuary, and then we'd have the staff line up since the staff couldn't get the county food, and we'd serve the staff, and then any of the kids that were still hungry, which normally they were all still hungry, we'd feed them, and it ranged from like sausage and eggs to like waffles and bacon. It was just all over the place. Oh yeah, and grilled cheese. We served grilled cheese for breakfast.
And Stacy, I believe you helped out a little bit with that. We'll allow you, oh, the microphone's coming your way. So a little bit of what you experienced there working in the kitchen there.
Yeah, I volunteered to work in the kitchen. I'm not positive if he actually volunteered. I think he wanted to do something else, but and ended up in the kitchen. I was really glad. It was fun working with him, but I like to be in there cleaning and organizing. That's just kind of my thing. And it was very interesting. It was challenging because it was, and Asher and I both talked about it, it was very different from where we were with camp and the stringent rules that they have for sanitizing. When I worked at Focus and stuff, how they just are not able to do that necessarily with the facility at the time with what they have there. So it was very challenging and eye-opening to do that. But I think, if I could add real quickly, the thing that God used in my life the most with working in the kitchen was the people. I had the opportunity to work with two women, Kia and Addie. Addie's going to be going to Africa as a missionary soon, but hearing their testimonies, I just have goosebumps right now. You have no idea where people come from. You just have no clue the road that they've walked, their history. But when you have a chance to talk to them and you're just blown away by what they've experienced and the baggage, but the chance to encourage her and her saying, I've never been encouraged like this the whole summer by anyone that's come to work. I just knew that God had me in there for a reason. So that was the best part of being in the kitchen for me, was just being able to be an encouragement to them. That, just to point out, this was their last week of camp. They'd been working for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. It was our first week, so we were trying to be a lift in their spirits and their step, because they were dragging, which they really kind of weren't, but I think they struggled with it at times. And so we were trying to lift them up and help them finish the race strong.
Imagine doing VBS 5 weeks in a row, 6 weeks in a row. That's kind of what that is. And if you've worked in Vacation Bible School, got to get in the picture here, then you know what that's like. You put a lot of effort into that ministry, and then you get Saturday, Sunday off, and you're right back at it again. And that was their summer schedule. Those meal times were actually very important, because as refugee families, remember, they're not coming with a lot of resources, and so this might be their 2 best meals of the day, and most likely was for most of these children. They would get more food there than they would get at home, and so it was a very important way to minister to these children, to meet their needs. And for the close to, I think we ended up with 100 students that showed up. It was an important thing to feed them physically as well to feed them spiritually. We went from opening, from music to breakfast and lunch and that kind of a thing, and then there was a Bible study, a Bible story that was shared. And somebody want to talk about that a little bit? Marie?
So my job throughout the week was I was a blue group team leader. So my kids ranged from 6th, 7th, 8th, and I believe we had one 9th grader who, so like 11 to 14, I guess, was the age group. and we would go after we would sing. We would go into this auditorium with another group, and then one of the youth leaders or youth members would lead a Bible study for our entire group. And so sometimes it was like a college age student, and sometimes it was a 16-year-old. And they would just take us through the theme of the day, and they would teach us from God's Word. And then we would break into smaller groups of about 6-ish, maybe, depending on the day, I guess. And then be able to like really go a little bit deeper with a little outline and really get to know the kids spiritually on their level. And I've done small groups before, but it's definitely different doing a small group with kids who are, they're just coming from a lot of different places. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I had girls in my small group from Ethiopia and from Sudan and from Laos, and just kind of trying to connect with them and have things that are similar so that you can build relationships. And that it's just it's so different. So it was very stretching to try to, where are they even coming from, to be able to connect with them. So that was interesting. That was a learning experience for me.
Study. There we go. They would have a teen that would often lead that Bible study, or as Marie said, a college student, and they were, for the most part, pretty well prepared and did a good job with it, and I thought it was a great way to empower their young people. And then in their small groups, Brad, one of our team members who couldn't be here tonight, was in that blue team with Marie, working with that group, and so she's telling you a little bit of what she and Brad went through as small group leaders, helping out with that. By the way, if you were a color team leader, raise your hand. So every one of these people that was a color team leader, the colors represented different age groups, and so each one of these color leaders would also do small groups. They were also involved in those things, but we just wanted to kind of highlight that area and specify that. From there, we went to 4 activities during the day, broken up in the middle by lunch, but they would do 2 activities in the morning and 2 activities in the afternoon. I'd like to have somebody start out with that. Sports? I don't know, who wants to do sports? There you go.
So we did sports, me, Olivia, and Eiley, and some of the games we played were dodgeball, and then we played capture the flag, and then we also had pennies that we played penny tag with. You would like loop them through your belt loop and then try to pull each other's pennies out.
Okay, so every day that we did sports, there was a word of the day, and the first one was patience, the second one was wisdom, the third one was trustworthy, and there was a water day, so the one day they said the word of the day was water, and then they sprayed everybody with water.
Very good. Eiley was very involved in athletics. You care to share any on that?
Okay, so we were playing capture the flag, and me and this little kid that were on the same team, we were running to tag another kid on the other team, and we were both running towards him, and I was going really fast. There was a light pole, and I tripped over the little kid and smacked my face into the light pole and got a huge gouge in my lip. And then I had a big like Charlie horse in my leg from the other little kid hitting my leg. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
Okay. Well, she's kind of underplaying this a little bit. She ended up getting 5 stitches in her mouth because she split the corner of her mouth open, and that turned out to be a little bit of an adventure. You went to how many different medical centers? 2?
2, yeah.
2, and ended up how long? You went with her, Marie. 6 hours? spent 6 hours of their, it was fortunately toward the end of camp, toward the end of the day, so spent about 6 hours of their evening going through some medical trauma, getting over that. But I'm really proud of Eiley. She handled that well. That was not an easy thing to handle when you're away from home. I'm proud of Eiley's mom, because that's not an easy thing for a mom to handle. When you call, the youth pastor calls on a trip, it's never a good thing. You know, hey, your girl met someone, it was a poll, and so thank you, Danielle, for your patience on that. So sports was one of those things that, again, they would use athletics and sports to bring home biblical points of the day, the theme for the day. Another area was academics. Who had academics? That would be Logan. And it's not that these people just did these. These color leaders went to all 4 of these classes with their group. They stayed with their group. But academics was one that Logan did well at. And tell us a little bit about that.
So in academics, well, my group, yellow group, which is like 3rd and 4th graders, we would go in the room and everybody would get a book and they were allowed to read for a while. Most of them could read, or yeah, I think all of them can read, but some of them didn't want to read, so you sometimes had to read to them. So they would pick a really hard book, and then you had to read it to them. And then after they got done reading for a while, they all had a journal, and so they would, the teacher would give them a prompt, and they would have to write in what they thought about the prompt. And then another day, they did this game, this math game, boys against girls, which the girls only had, there were only 2 girls and a whole lot of boys, so the boys kept winning. But they would play like whoever wrote the answer down first and the problem got the point. And another day, they all got a paper and a pencil, and teacher would tell them to draw like a number and then a line here and a line there, and it turned out to be a picture, and so they would all draw a dog. And another day, they played a game with cards, where if you got any face card, you lost all the number cards that you'd already got flipped up to you. And another day, everybody got to pick their favorite superpower, and then they had to write a prompt about that.
So they were learning reading, writing, arithmetic, the basic R's. And again, think about this, not maybe in our vacation Bible school setting, this might not mean a lot, but when you're coming to a new country and you're trying to learn the culture, learn things, this is huge. And again, it's another avenue where they were able to talk to the kids about the Bible story that they heard that day, and the theme that they had for the day. And they're eager, right? Did you not find most of the kids wanted to learn how to do things, to read, to know the language? For the most part, there were always a few that were there just for the entertainment value, but a lot of them very eager to learn these things. And the academics part was, I thought, a great resource for these children to take back home to their families. So then we have arts and music. Sawyer, I think you did a lot with that, if you can picture Sawyer being an artsy music guy. But he was, what color leader were you? Red? Red, and what age is that?
The youngest.
The youngest, okay. So what was it, 5 and 6 year old?
There was kids that weren't in school, there was kids that were preschools, there was kindergartners, there was 1st grade, there was 2nd grade, and we had like 1 3rd grader, I think, for some reason.
Okay, so you had a pretty young group, and Amy Friesen was another red team leader, but you guys every day had some time to spend with them in arts and music. Describe a little bit of what that was like when you did that.
So I think ours was after sports or something, which was first thing in the morning, so it was like second, and then so we'd all get together and go into like the, I don't know, sanctuary, I guess, or where they did church. And then there was 2 people that would go up on stage, and we'd spend like 15 minutes singing songs and doing motions that didn't line up with anything of what they were saying. And then we'd go into the art area, which was like they're supposed to be their cafeteria, but they did not use it as a cafeteria. and they would have something up on the board like what we needed to do or instructions, and then they'd have the verse of the day from the teaching in the morning on the board. And usually art consisted of ending up with marker all over them or something and stickers on other people. And I mean, one day there was some kids that decided to color themselves with black Sharpie, and so yeah, it was a lot of, I mean, they were interacting with what they were supposed to do, but they also got sidetracked really easily.
Very challenging to work with a group that young to try to get them on point for doing something structured like that. And Sawyer, I appreciated Sawyer taking on that challenge because that is tough. That age is very tough to get them lined up and getting their ducks in a row. But Sawyer did it with a lot of enthusiasm and graciousness. He's kind of a shy guy, so if he doesn't sound like he's totally enthused, you'll see in our slideshow that he was oftentimes right down on his hands and knees working with him on it. I don't think you got colored with Sharpie too much. You did stay out of that, so I think you did all right with that. And again, Amy was a red team leader with him. One of our members chose a job in one of these 4 departments, and that was science. That was our last of the 4. And Edie Davison chose to stay with that department. So instead of traveling around with a color group, an age group, she stayed in science all day. And so she would do science 4 times?
Yep.
4 times. So tell us a little bit about science stuff you did.
So I was in science, and we would start off the day, we'd have a daily verse from the Bible group teaching, and the main leader, her name was Ash. She's around my age, and she basically led the entire science class, and I just helped out with it, and a couple other people did too. But every day she would write down the verse on the board, the daily verse, and she would have the kids read it out loud to her a couple of times, and they'd have them memorize it, or try to at least. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, we would get into the science projects. So the first day it wasn't really science-y, but we wrote thank you cards to the members there, like the staff members. And at first I was like, oh, well, this isn't really a science class, but as the kids got into it, it was really cool because they would make a thank you card to one of the staff members, and they would be really happy about it and grateful for them. So the second day there was a glass container that they would fill water with, and they would put turmeric in it, which is a spice, I believe. I don't know. And which is a super bright orange spice, and it would turn the water orange. And they would then put laundry detergent with the powder, and it would change colors. It would change purple, and the kids would be so blown away by it. It would turn purple, and then after they messed around with it, mixed it in a bit more, somebody would come around and put vinegar in the purple turmeric wash water, and it would change back into the orange water. You could see the purple go back to orange, so that was pretty cool. And then we did an experiment, which was like a lava lamp. So they would first mix oil and food coloring, and then pour it into the same big water glass, and it would be like a lava lamp, so the oil would float in the water, and that was cool.
Science was an interesting class to visit. She mentioned Ash, a young lady, 16,
My age.
just about Edie's age, and when I first watched her teach the class, I thought she was a college student. I mean, she would walk up there, she would say, okay, class, I want you to sit down. I want you to stop messing around right now. And these kids were all like, and then she would write down the verse. Okay, let's say it together. And she taught a class. I was very impressed. And many of these young people in the Clarkston youth group were really on target and really set up well to do their job. They had, of course, this was their 6th week of doing it, but she did really well. I had an opportunity to talk to her afterwards. I said, Ash, I think you would make a great teacher. She said, oh, no, I couldn't do that. I'm too mean. Welcome to America. You'll be perfect. It'll be fine. So that was a little bit about our Camp Encounter Day. That was our 7:45 to 3:45 day. Afterwards, there were other things. Tell us a little bit about class after camp.
So we had this really cool opportunity. I know I'm not going to say his name right, but I believe it's Irmia. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. But we had class after class. So about from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock, we would go upstairs, and Jasmine and Irmia. Jasmine was from Laos. Her parents were refugees through the Vietnam War, and Irmia was from Ethiopia. Okay, and they basically taught us what it meant to be a refugee and what it meant to minister to people who had gone through the refugee lifestyle or were living that lifestyle. And so we learned a lot about just what some of the kids and their families were going through, which helped us understand them a little bit better. One thing that we learned is that while refugees are here, they're not legally allowed to work. So anything that these families need that they get from the church is really, really appreciated. The church actually has a store that's right down by the sanctuary that you can go in, and then some of the families make some of the wives make bags and keychains and purses and things that can be purchased, and then they get to keep that as income, but not all of it. And so that's an opportunity that they have created for those women in the community whose families can't legally work in the United States. Then we actually got to see what it was like to be a missionary to a different people group. And that was a really fun experience. I'll let the students tell you about that later. And then we also got to learn what it was like to be a refugee. And we went through this series of refugee stories and experienced in a very small scale what some of those losses would be like that they have to face, that is their reality. And we were in a simulation. And I don't think we'll ever forget what that felt like. And when we got done, the students, all of us were kind of like, oh man, we got to take this back home. I would really like to do this with my class or with my youth group or with my church, because you just don't get to experience that in Carson City on that scale, what it's like to feel like you've lost your family or your identity or your, in my case, a child. And that was just really eye-opening. That these kids were coming to camp, and I didn't know if they had experienced this, and I knew that some of their parents had, and so that was what those classes were about. I really appreciated them.
Anybody want to add to that what we learned in class? No, nobody wants to add. It was end of day stuff. It was tough. That to me was a challenging thing, that after working at a day camp, to sit down for a class for 2 hours and meet. One of the exercises that the students did was they were to make a 4x4 grid on a piece of paper. And on the first row, the top row, they were to write in 4 important people in their lives. The second row was to be 4 things that they owned, 4 valued possessions. And then the other 2 rows, other things about their lives, important things, areas of their lives. So how they were known, what their identity was. And she then, as Marie mentioned, Jasmine, our teacher, would then read a refugee story, and at the end of the story, she would say, "Okay, now remove 4 of those items, any 4," and she would remove it. And then she would read another story, and then Irmia, who was also teaching the class, sometimes would come along and just take away, because we were actually writing them on little cards. Sorry, we weren't writing them on a piece of paper, writing them on little cards. So these items that you had written down were being taken away, and when she got done reading the 4 stories, she said, "Okay, what do you have left? Who are you?" And I looked down at my leftover things that I had, and it said, "I'm a pastor and I have one child left." That was really eye-opening to think about. That's how some people come to America. They start out with all of these things that they have in their home country, but by the time they get done with the hardship that causes them to want to flee, and then the process of fleeing, and who they might have to pay, and what they might have to give up, and what risks they might have to take, they end up oftentimes with just a shattered fragment left of their lifestyle that they used to know. And that was very eye-opening. Other things that we did. Let's just go down the line and mention, Asher, I think you had a couple of things, and then we'll go right down the line of different things that happened.
So on the last day of camp, they do this like massive cookout, and we had like burgers and hot dogs and like 50 pizzas from Little Caesars. It was insane. There's a ton of food. And what really stood out to me about that part of the day was that they really took into account like all these people's backgrounds and cultures. So they had like separate food groups for the different religions. Like there were some Muslim kids and they couldn't eat like pork and stuff, so they had food for them. And then other people didn't want to eat beef, so they had separate food for them. So that was kind of eye-opening to me. Like, oh wow, these people like actually care about them enough to supply food that they can eat. And on the topic of food, one of the days, I think it was Monday, I don't remember exactly, we went out into like the streets, I guess you could say, and we visited all these shops. I don't remember where. It was just a bunch of shops.
Right around.
Yeah, and yeah, it was like a 10-minute walk from CIBC, which is the church, you know, and there was a bunch of Oriental shops and Indian shops, and it was just really cool to see how all the cultures were depicted there, and like the designs of the shops and like the stuff they were selling, and all the different like foods and stuff. Like there was snacks and stuff you couldn't get like anywhere else, but that you could get them there.
So on Thursday, I'm pretty sure it was, after our class, we went to this restaurant called Kathmandu, and it's like a Nepali Burmese restaurant, and it had a whole bunch of different kind of food. Me and Mrs. M over here, we got a non-vegetarian dinner for two, and we fed like 4 people with it. It had fried momo, which is like chicken, and curry, and some soup and rice, and bread that was called naan. It was really good, and some rat chicken because it looked like a rat, but it tasted like chicken. It was really good. There's also this red chicken leg stuff, and some lamb soup, and this really spicy sauce that I did not like, but Asher liked it. He also had this shake that, what was in it?
It was a mango lassi or something like that. It was a mango yogurt milkshake with ice, and it was really good.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of good food, and I think I'm forgetting more stuff, but it was good. Also some lime juice, which is very sour. Do not try it.
Just pass it right down to Riley there. There you go.
So, unfortunately, and obviously most of you probably know this, but unfortunately in Clarkston there are a lot of people without homes, without jobs, without places they can sleep, and we met a few of those people. Outside of our church, we woke up one morning, we had breakfast. Actually, no, we didn't, because we ate breakfast there. But we woke up, got dressed, everything was ready. So we walked out to get in our van, and before we walked out, people were just kind of standing by the door because we were, waiting, follow the leader, So we're waiting by the door, and we look out, and there's this person sleeping right outside our door. And long story short, we met him. His name was Pete. And we talked to him. We got him some food. We we tried to witness to him and just spend some time with him. But yeah, unfortunately, there were you see a lot of people. It wasn't rare to see just a person sleeping outside or just doing have a sign up for like money or something. But and then we were driving and we were going down a highway, and this was hit me hard because kind of opened my eyes that this man was, because oh boy, storytelling. But this man was, because like the road separated in two, kind of, but like there was still this intersection. So there was this piece of cement where people could stand on. And there was this man who had the sign up, and he was going around to each car individually asking, hey, you know, can I have some money, some food, you know, something. And it hit me that, and I think a couple other people mentioned this, but unfortunately, that man was working so hard, you know, going around asking each individual person, hey, I need, do you have any money for me? He was working that hard that if, you know, maybe he just, words, English, holy cow. I'm sorry, give me a second. That if he put that power to use where he could go out and work and you know, get some money, and unfortunately it made me sad that just because he looked like he was just a very hardworking man, and unfortunately he put that hardworking. Anyways, I digress. Yes. So, speaking of traveling, it took us. Originally, we thought it was going to take 13 hours. I think 13 hours to get from here to Clarkston. It took us 15. 15 hours sitting next to someone in a hot, sweaty van. It was hard. It was rough. Okay. It took a lot out of us. It was very, very, very exhausting, very, very just socially draining that we had to sit next to, you know, just sit down and not move for hours on end. And what? Yes.
I'm nodding. I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Riley. Appreciate it.
Pastor Mike was sleeping while he was driving. Anyways.
That's right. Thank you.
But yeah, I have a lot of things. I was given a lot of responsibility, and I volunteered for this responsibility, but I don't. Yeah. Long story short, traveling was hard. Last thing that I'm supposed to talk about is at the end of the week we played dodgeball, and yes, dodgeball. Dodgeball where the Alabama group, Michigan group, which was us, and then the Clarkston group would just play against each other in dodgeball, and the Clarkston group was actually really big, so yes, we won both times. And it was sad because Clarkston, each week, they played dodgeball against the volunteers that came. They never won. So it was kind of sad, but they did have a lot of fun. We all had a lot of fun, and they played very well. Anyways, you've probably had enough talking.
Thanks. So Pastor Mike and Stacy from their last trip were talking about, they called it the Friendship Mall, and they talked about how cool it would be cool to go back there and look at all the shops, because it was mostly, it's not our culture, it's different cultures, malls. So we got there and it wasn't called the Friendship Mall anymore, it was called Global Mall. And we walk in, there's 2 big escalators. Of course, we got to play on those. We went up and down a couple of times. And then we went around to the different shops. It was mostly like Indian or Hindu culture, right? So there was so many dress shops of all the pretty, do you call them saris? The pretty Indian dresses with all the pretty gems on them. They were gorgeous. And there's a couple of just like normal shops with food and just like regular appliances, like different brand foods that we got, which was really cool, different snacks. We got these popsicles, like fudgesicles almost, but they were like actual chocolate but frozen. So it wasn't like your normal fudgesicle, it was better. It was way better. And there was cool statues for the Hindu religion. They were like straight, really heavy. We tried to pick one up, like a little one, and it was like straight solid metal. And while we were there, I'm pretty sure it was a wedding going on. You could see everybody. There was like a big room for people to host things in, and there was a wedding going on. There was all the guys wearing, the theme was like yellow, so all the guys were wearing their yellow, not suits, but like their Indian clothing outfit. And all the ladies had pretty yellow dresses on. It was really cool.
So on Wednesday night, we met with the Indian Creek youth group, and we met in this little room, and we sang some songs, and then when all the kids left, they went to go play in the gym. We had a little small group, and we were just like in a circle, and so we sat there and listened for a while the kids played, and that was pretty cool.
So on one of the days of camp, me, Eileen, and Adeline, we're in the green group, and that's like 4th through 6th grade, and we had a field trip. We went to the trampoline park, and it was so fun watching all the kids play on the trampolines and playing on it ourselves. It was like a lot of fun.
So on Wednesday was the day that I ran into the light pole, and it was like we already had lunch. We like went to the trampoline park in the morning, then we had lunch, then we came back to do sports. That was where I got hurt. So we went from sports to the hospital. Me, Pastor Mike was there for a little bit too. Me, him, and Miss M all took a hospital trip. First we went to like a walk-in thing, and they told us that we had to like go to the hospital, see if we could get like a plastic surgeon to do it. But so we had to find like a hospital near us, and then we went there, and we waited for so long. Me and Miss M were like, it was not fun. There was so many people there. It was like packed. There was about like 100 people just in the waiting room, waiting for like, I don't even know. It was so terrible. And we finally got back. That took us like 30 minutes to get done from there. So then Pastor Mike came to pick us up, and he had a couple of the boys with him. It was so weird. Riley, he got pudding cups, and he didn't have a spoon, so he had to drink his pudding right in front of me and Miss M. And then Brad was sitting next to Riley, and he was a drunk Southerner. He was acting like one. It was funny. And then it was a great experience overall.
Okay.
Follow that, will you, Stace?
Yeah, to follow that. It's okay. I just wanted to tack on who was talking about that when we went to Kathmandu? Logan. Jasmine and Irmia and his family were able to come with us and meet us there. And just having the opportunity to sit with their families. Well, Jasmine is single, but sit and visit with them. They're just such neat people. And I thought it was pretty gracious of the kids I think you guys really loved them too, but allowing them to come and eat with us and spend that time with us, because it was kind of chaotic in that small place, but just really neat, the experience. The thing I wanted to talk about was something we do on all of our missions trips is we place a responsibility on the kids for their meals, and we give them a budget, and we take them to a store like Walmart or whatever's available, and they walk around and they plan the dinner for the group, and they have to get all the supplies and stuff for it and bring it up to the front, and then we check out. So they did a great job. They had fun with it. I think all of them except for one group, which the one group made tacos, and it kind of went over the budget, but you got to consider the cost of things too. And but they all did great, and then they were responsible for making it for the group, and then the other ones that didn't make it had to clean up. And I never heard one complaint. You know, they did a great job. I think they probably learned a lot with doing that. But it was something that we try and have them take ownership of that and learn responsibility with that, and they really did awesome. I think that was all I was supposed to.
No, that's fine. So all of these things merging together to help us do one important thing, and that's to share Christ with children. And during the week, I did not get an exit interview yet with the pastor there, but I know that I had the opportunity with one of the Alabama team members to pray with 2 children to accept Christ, and I know there were a couple other ones. And so we saw kids learn their Bible, we saw kids respond to the Bible, we saw kids come to know Jesus Christ, and that was an amazing thing. And that was our goal. That was our goal, was to share Christ, as many of our team members said. I wanted to go down so that our team could share Christ with the children down there, with the so many different nationalities that are represented down there. And we are over time here a little bit, but I think probably the most important question people would want to know is, what kind of impact did this have on you spiritually? So 15 seconds or so, if you could wrap this up by saying what kind of impact did this have on you in your relationship with Christ, your observations, real quick, kind of wrap it up for us. Go ahead.
I kind of already said mine earlier when I talked about the history of people, and hearing Kia, it was very interesting because Kia, the lady I worked with, was actually Irmia's sister, and I never knew that, and they have like 5 siblings not saved still. But hearing their testimony and where they came from just made me realize more and more to keep my eyes open and be more aware that there is so much baggage and hurt that people have. You don't know why they're acting out the way they are. You just don't know. So be loving and show Christ, and pray for the opportunity to help them and meet their need.
I feel like this brought me much closer to my walk with Christ, and it was just seeing all these kids, and some of them didn't even know Christ, so it was cool to teach them about Christ and lead them to Him.
This brought me closer in my walk with Christ because I learned that I'm lucky for where I landed in my life, and yeah.
This trip helped me to learn to be more thankful for the things I have, because some people have nothing. There was one girl in, I think it was the red group, she wore the same clothes every day, and I guess that somebody said that she'd worn them every week. So
it taught me to be humble, and there's a lot of things that I wouldn't experience if I stayed here in Carson, like cockroaches, the heat, the humidity, all of it. So this taught me to give my struggles and complaints to Christ.
I learned a lot about the great poverty of the world and how much it really affects not only the person that has the poverty, or not only the person, but the entire just place around it, and it was. And I also learned about self-control and patience.
So I guess here in Michigan, in Awana and VBS, most of the kids that come already know about Christ and have a relationship with Him. But in Clarkston, it's kind of the opposite. Most of them don't know Christ and don't really have a relationship with Him. So I guess it was a different experience because every day, the whole time, you had an opportunity to share Christ. And I think I kind of surprised myself with how much I wanted them to make that decision to accept Christ. And I also, it was encouraging to me how the leaders there that had been there for the whole summer, like the sacrifice they'd made to be there. There was this one leader who hadn't seen his mom in like 2 months. He had just been living with Mr. Scott, the director, there the whole time, and I just thought it was cool how they would give up their whole summer.
I learned about how much I love to serve God by serving the people around me, and hopefully I can go back up to camp and with a new attitude after serving in Clarkston.
So one of the very first things we got to do was go to the CIBC church service on Sunday morning, and the pastor gave a challenge. He does this thing with his church. It's called 3-2-1, and he challenged us to have 3 people that were in our brain that we were praying for every week that might not know Christ. And then he said, pray for 2 opportunities to share Christ with someone each week, and then pray for 1 opportunity to show mercy to someone. And that was something that really stuck in my brain that we could do here. You know, make sure that we're involved in ministries where we have the opportunity to meet people who don't know Christ, that we can pray for them, and that God gives us those opportunities to share Christ, even if it's just, at work or at sporting events or community outreach or things like that. But if we're not actively praying for those things, I don't think they're going to be in our mind, and we might miss those opportunities. So that challenge really stayed with me.
Forgetting to do that. In closing, we all would like to say thank you. You as a church family have been very supportive. Many of you financially supportive. As a missions committee, you were financially supportive. Your prayer support, greatly appreciated. Your support here tonight, we've spent a lot of time talking, and we, as you can tell, I was worried, are they going to have enough to share? And now here we are going overtime, and I appreciate your patience with that, because there's a lot of things going on here this week that they are processing. So I want to just express my appreciation to you and thanks to you for everything that you have done, whether you're a family member, a church family member, to help make this trip happen, to help make these experiences. Please continue to pray for our group, pray for the group down in Clarkston. People are still processing this. This trip is not over. In fact, we challenged them on the way home. You decide when your ministry trip is over. You decide when you stop ministering for Christ and seeking to reach people. It shouldn't end just because you're back in a van driving back home. It should, in some ways, just be beginning. I don't want to infringe upon your time anymore, but I do want to make sure that if you have any questions, anything that we didn't explain, or anything that you have questions about. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask anybody in the group? The children or the refugees, do they have their own home? If they're lucky, they have. There's quite a few apartment complexes that are set up specifically to house refugee families. Picture Grove Street apartment Linden Street, whatever. The apartments there that we have on steroids. They're all over the place. These complexes like this, and they're full of families, thousands of people that are. Yeah, trying to find a place to stay. Right. They would mostly, in fact, one day that was my job, is they wanted to use our van to drive to one of the apartment complexes, and I literally drove a quarter mile back in all these apartment buildings trying to find these kids. And a lot of them do come from that. A lot of children there are not refugees themselves. In other words, they were born in the United States. The average refugee experience from fleeing a country to citizenship takes how many years do you think? 5? More than 5? More than 5? I think it was 14 is what they told us. 14 years. Am I right on that? Is that something? Was it 7? 17. Thank you. I knew I was getting close. 17 years. That's a long time. in that experience. And so many of these children are born right here in the United States, products of refugee children as well. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to invite the team to sit down. We just have a slideshow to show you, and then we'll be done for the evening. So, guys, want to sit down, and Ashley, you want to flip that over so the folks at home that are watching online can enjoy this as well. Again, thank you very much. When our slideshow is done, we'll close in prayer, and then we'll be done here. But just to give you a few pictures of all that's going on, a lot of activity. A lot of jumping around and running around and being active, and these kids loved it. And we appreciate it very much. By the way, team, how many of you are going to work this week in basketball clinic? Raise your hand. How many of you also would be super excited to work in Vacation Bible School here next year? We almost got 100% on that. We would love to do that next year if we would be able to have that ministry here next year. Thanks again, and here's a little look at it. Maybe. Kind of. You have to roll that somewhere. Is that at the, I have to restart it? Riley put this slideshow together. Thank you, Riley, for this work.
My feet are frozen on this middle ground. The water's warm here, but the fire's gone out. I played it safe for so long, the passion left. Turns out safe is just another word for regret. So I step to the edge and I take a deep breath. We're all down to live, but we're all scared to death. And this is the part where my head tells my heart you should turn back around, but there's no turning back now. I'm going all in, head first to the deep end. I hear you calling, and this time the fear won't win. I'm going all in. I'm all in, I'm all in, all in. I'm all in. I believe that one day I will see your kingdom come, and I wanna hear you say, welcome home, my child, well done. So I step to the edge and I take a deep breath. I'm not turning back around, 'cause there's no turning back now. I'm going all in, head first to the deep end. I hear you calling, and this time the fear won't win. I'm going all in. I'm all in, I'm all in, all in. I'm all in, I'm going all in. I'm all in, I'm all in, all in. I'm all in, I'm all in. All to you, Jesus, I freely give. As long as there's breath in these lungs, I will live. With reckless abandon, my heart in your hands, I surrender it all. I'm going all in. I'm going all in. I'm going all in, head first to the deep end. I'm going all in. I hear you calling, and this time the fear won't win. I'm going all in. I'm all in, I'm all in, all in. I'm all in, I'm going all in. I'm all in, I'm all in, all in. I'm all in, I'm all in. I believe that one day I will see your kingdom come, and I want to hear you say, welcome home, my child, well done. church mother in they church hat clap. Man, that sugar gave her color purple coming back clap. When that whole week beat you up and stress you, but you hear that organ playing and remind you of your blessings. And on another note, she just hit another note. Chills down my spine, got me crying, make me overload. You don't know about it though. Old school church hymns, deacons get the humming, now the drummer finna burst.
The church clap, the kids just absolutely loved the church clap song. They had all kinds of motions for it and stuff like that. Really, that's their culture too. We went to a Congolese service, and it was hopping, and I mean that literally. They celebrate that way. Their worship services are a celebration. And again, thank you. We've kept you here long enough. I'm going to invite the group to go out to the foyer so that they can meet everybody. Head on out that way, group, would you, so that people want to talk to you on the way out, they can catch you out there in the foyer. Thank you for being here tonight. And while they're heading out, I'll take a minute to pray with you folks. Thank you, God, for the opportunity to be here tonight and to do this sharing. And again, for our church family to have an opportunity to have an impact in the lives of people from around the world is an amazing thing. Thank you for using us in that way. And may your ministry here continue to abound, not only here in Carson City locally, but to reach people around the world as we are called by the Great Commission to do. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being here tonight. Greet our group on the way out, and thank you.